Synthetic Temporal Abstraction Representation Lab, Star Lab. It's a really cool name. What does it mean and what's the purpose? The idea of Star Lab is something I thought about this morning where I'm really interested in world models. Right? I think they're a really cool concept. I think they have a lot of applications. I know nothing about them, but I want to know more about them. I want to have a goal to pursue as I learn more about them. So I think what Star Lab is meant to do is to build a kind of lab, a student-run initiative. We have these different people researching world models and maybe like a more niche, more precise application, right? Something more reasonable for people, and especially in undergrad, to be researching. And while they do that, they just learn more, especially for myself, because I think there's so much for me to learn. I think having this would be a great way to have that community to learn within, but also have that goal to pursue. Like if I'm looking for a workshop submission, which I was looking at right now to see which ones would even be possible, even though a lot of them there's a good gap of time to like, get something practical out there, but there's like it's very competitive workshop. I assume very competitive workshop applications, especially as like I know paper submissions have been growing tremendously over the last couple of years. I don't know for workshops. I assume it's like workshops are following the same trend, but um, I've been looking at that, and I think I really want to pursue this. But I think my biggest fear pursuing this is that as a person, I say a lot of ideas. There's a lot of cool stuff I say all the time. And I think my fear is that this might just be another thing I say and then nothing happens. If I think that really annoys me because I don't want to be someone who just comes up with ideas instead of actually building upon them. Right. And I think even as I say this, like what's like sticking in my head right now is go, I had this cool thing with Agora. And Agora, just to reiterate, is meant to be this thing where you have like this AI community where they can come and talk about different ideas. It could be debates, it could be seminars, it could be talks, different stuff like that, workshops. And I was like, okay, if I'm being reasonable here, there's no way I can have like two different organizations I'm running at the same time. Well, that's not true, but it's more difficult. I don't want to do it. I want to make it unnecessarily difficult. So what I've thought with Agora is that I can take Agora because it's something that like it doesn't really exist at UMD at least. It doesn't really exist at UMD right now. I can take Agora and take that as an idea and make it like naturally blossom from Big Think AI. Because Big Think AI, the biggest AI org at UMD, they're kind of at a fluctuation point right now where we have more people than we know what to do with. And we're trying to decide what the future of this organization might look like. So we have a couple more weeks to do that. So what I'm planning to do is kind of like say, okay, I have this idea with Agora. If I can fold that into Big Think and its future, that could be something that naturally blossoms. Where it's like, okay, I can still have a large, I can still impact this direction, but it's not going to be me carrying the full burden. Right, there's already an infrastructure to support the idea. So I'm really excited about that. I do think it's possible. I think there might be some resistance and friction inevitably, but I do think if I push hard enough and if I properly plan and plant the seed in different people's heads, it might work. I think what I have to do is less make it seem like some revolutionary idea, right? But more so make it seem like something that's just a natural progression for what we're already doing. Because with Big Think, we have workshops, we have project-based learning, and like what follows after that, right? We've talked about community, we've talked about community-based learning, and what's the better way of having community than having people come together and talk about cool stuff, right? So that's what I think I can do with Big Think AI. Then going back to this whole Star Labs thing, I have to say the name again because it's a really big acronym. Um, Synthetic Temporal Abstraction Representation Lab. I think what might be really cool, or not even what might be really cool, the necessary roadmap for something like this, the necessary 60-day roadmap is to find like a faculty advisor who can give like light support that can actually help. Like, okay, maybe you can use this resource and use this compute, and then finding other people, like 2 to 3 people, might be really helpful. I have some people in mind, like I know a couple people, but they're international. I don't know if they're interested in the research, but I think they might be. So I might have some leeway there. And if I can like really pawn that leeway, that may really be really helpful. Um, I do just think, right? I never plan for anything to fail, but I do think, I think about like the end, like what happens at the end. Like anytime I do something, if it's a big initiative, if it's a big campaign, I think what's gonna happen if this thing succeeds in this way, if it succeeds in this way, or if it fails in this way, right? What happens? I think with something like this, since ultimately my goal is the pursuit of knowledge, I have no I know I would have qualms if it doesn't go the way I want, but I would ultimately be very happy with the knowledge I gain in the process. I think that's what excites me about the whole thing in general. It's like if fundamentally it's not even a matter of like building some pedigree or status or anything like that. It's just really I want to learn more. I want to have I have a better excuse to learn more. I think that's what a lot of the stuff I do is. Um, so I do think it's exciting. I do think it's hard. I do think it's scary, but I do think it's gonna be something I do regardless. So I just have to better plan. And I was saying before, I was looking at some workshops, and I assume they're gonna have it's very competitive because the paper submissions increasing tremendously. I see workshops are following the same trend. Um, but regardless, I have to find something and figure out a way to at least get like one workshop done. 'Cause I think with the goal, the best plan for 60 days is to get like, okay, you get a faculty advisor, you get some compute, and you get like 2 to 3 people. If those 2 to 3 people plus myself can work, so 3 to 4. If those 3 to 4 people can work on a workshop submission and get that done, that kind of builds momentum. I think even like in the pursuit of that workshop, momentum is being built. But after you get that workshop submission, it builds legitimacy and more momentum. I think that's really what I want to do. Um, I think a really great analogy, right? A really great analogy, even though I think most people haven't seen the show, is Run with the Wind. It's a really great show. It's a very short anime, but it's like you have these group of people who have like some interest in running, some don't, some do, some are really experienced in it. But then you just have to like you find these mini goals, and these mini goals are in pursuit of a much bigger goal, which I think was the Hakone or something. And by building, like by pursuing these mini goals, maybe it's even qualifying for a track, right? Maybe it's winning a competition, stuff like that. By pursuing it, build momentum, you build the skill, and you build a strong foundation for that team to go pursue that bigger goal, right? So the bigger goal might be like more foundational, more frontier research. But for now, I think there's a lot of cracks. I think a lot of unexplored areas and applications in this research, being world models and like even understanding. Um, Actually, I actually don't know the state of the art, and actually have to do more research. So I can't speak confidently on that. But I think there's a lot of room. I think a group of dedicated people who are looking in less fancy areas might be able to get a lot of cool stuff done. So I'm excited. Besides that, though, I have nothing else to say. So have a great day.